bones of the foot. So a lot of complex bones happen throughout the foot. So this lecture and demo are going to be to help the student to conceive of the foot and use, again, the triangular wedge, and then go a little further and talk about and draw some of these bones and why they're important. So I'm going to turn it around and let you see the foot a little bit, and we're going to name these bones. So with the foot now, we have the tibia and the fibia, which we know now. If you've followed along in the proper playlist, the foot, I generally put the foot after the upper and lower leg, and now we have the foot bones proper. So we have the tibia and the fibia, and that really starts down here at the malleolus of the tibia and the fibula, right, the beginning of what is the foot. And we've talked a little bit about the angles of the malleolus area, the tibia being higher on the inside, lower on the outside. That will always be true no matter which way you conceive it. So that really begins this process. The bones of the foot, there are 26 bones of the foot. I like to say they're 28 because of these two little guys here. These are not connected to the first metatarsal. These are little sesamoid bones that come off and are attached by cartilage and ligament, and there are two more, but they're really relatively 26 bones of the foot. So let's name them quickly, and then let's forget about some of them. How about that? The top part of the bone here, this is the talus, right into here. And what you want to know about, it's part of that bottom hinge joint of the tibia, and the side part now of the fibia hinging, giving you range of motion in that area. And of course, it's covered in, all of these bones are covered in little stitched ligaments. It's amazing how many ligaments cover the outside, the inside and the outside of the foot and beyond. But this is the talus here, okay, the back of it. The next bone is the calcaneus bone, this little edge here, and it reminds me of a cane. This whole thing is a cane, or the stock head of an old gun. So this is the calcaneus bone. In theory, it's a very important bone to set in motion many different muscles that'll attach to it. The Achilles heel, probably the most important tendon you'll see. There's a side digital minimum. There's an abductor here, and there's the plantar ligament underneath, as well as the digita brevis moving across the flexor brevis under into here. So it's a very important, significant bone that we see pop up in our anatomy as well, quite a bit. So it's very, very obvious, and one we'll talk about a lot. As a matter of fact, the calcaneus and the talus bone we'll talk about often in connection to the ankles, or the ankle bones, or the malleoli, or malleolus of the tibia and the fibia. We'll talk about those a lot. The next bones are the cuneiform bones, or we can talk about them as the tarsals. Okay. Now, this one is the navicular bone right in through here. That's the navicular bone. This is the cuboid bone on the lateral side. So one way you might want to remember that's cube or block. It's very blocky. Okay, cuboid here. Navicular will be on the more medial side. Then after that, there's these little three bones here. 1, 2, and 3. And these I call them the medial cuneiform, the intermedial, since it's in the middle, and then the lateral, since it's on the outer edge of the 3 cuneiform. Medial cuneiform, intermedial, and then lateral cuneiform. So that this entire area, we can call it, I call it the cuneiform bones, or I call them the tarsal bones. Look how many there are independent through here. They remind us a little bit of the wrist, but they're all connected together by little bitty interstitial laced ligaments. It's like they're all sewn together. They're really held together quite firmly. Okay, this dirty skeleton foot. It's been through lots of lectures. Now, after that, we start to get the bulk. Now, this makes up the bulk of the top of the foot. There are going to be muscles that sheath over this and coming over too. But then we start to get into the metatarsals. We have the first, second, third, fourth, and then the fifth metatarsal. The fifth one is important. It's a landmark, a bony landmark, because of the tuberosity of the fifth here. That's important to see. So the tuberosity of the fifth metatarsal is where the tendon coming down from the fibularis brevis will attach to, as well as give us more padding along and through here as we get the abductor hallucis coming across here, the muscle, and then fat pads too as well. So it does a lot of work for us, and of course the rest of them, the tuberosity of the rest of these bones here as well, to give you a medial aspect. This whole area again sheathes down quite strongly, sloping from this high point almost at the first metatarsal area, the medial point here, and then slopes and falls down. Muscles sheathe across here to give us a little bit more bulk throughout. But the bones give us more of the feeling overall. This goes true really for the entire human figure, but especially in the foot. The bones really give us that particular structure. So it gives you an undergirding here now of the metatarsals on the underneath view of it. Then we have rows of phalanges. Let's talk about the phalanges, getting into now the toes. Okay, so what you notice then here is that the big toe, your greater toe, only has 2 phalanges. The rest of them have 3 phalanges, or we'll call them digits too as well. Everything seems to be trending towards the second toe, pointing slightly inward, with the big toe into the first toe, which is a straighter toe, and quite often can be the longest toe. In mine is shorter than the big toe, but in a lot of people it's longer, and that generally tends to give a more elegant look. So I guess I have very inelegant feet. Oh well, that's neither here nor there. Now the phalanges, there are 3 sets, 3 rows each, except for the big toe. Let's name them. So the bigger phalanges are proximal. This one's proximal too. The phalanges in the middle are medial, for middle phalanges, except for here. This tip of our big toe is the distal phalange. Everything on the tip is distal. So we have proximal, medial, distal. Proximal, medial, distal, proximal, medial, distal, proximal, medial, distal, same, proximal, medial, distal, proximal, distal. This is a metatarsal of the big toe. So that pretty much runs down the bones now of the foot. Okay, now with this, the area of the foot, the foot has 3 major arcs going on with it. Longitudinally is long. Okay, this is the medial arc through here, that nice curve we can get underneath there. We have fat pads and muscles that go underneath, but we still have an arc. This is a longitudinal medial arc. This is a longitudinal, okay, lateral arc on the outside of the foot. Not quite as high here as you get over here. Why? Because of the gradual underturning of this foot. It really helps if you can get to bones and look at them somewhere or another at your local school or anywhere that you can get them will really help. So this is a nice gradual turn in through here. Now the other arc is the transverse arc, and I'm showing you that now as it comes across. This arc runs transversely across the top of the form, and it's highest at its peak here. Okay, and this all sheaths down. It's really steep as it falls off, as it runs downward here, and then we have it on this side, the more lateral view, coming down over. There are muscles through here, the extensor digitorum brevis and the extensor hallucis. 4 of them all come across and set to create a little bit higher ridge in through. Then you have the extensor digitorum longus tibialis anterior in through here, and then of course also the fibularis longus and brevis coming around a little bit, but they're a little bit more on the lateral side of the foot. But there is some building and bulking up through here, and they all sit on top of the metatarsal, the tarsals, or the cuneiform bones in through there. So those nice arcs that we have. Okay, so those are the bones. And let's pull out a little bit and draw some foot bones. Joyful, right? Drawing foot bones. How fun? Does it get any more fun than that? All right, so let's talk a little bit about what we're looking at here a little bit. We can draw that. So let's draw some in very simplified kind of view, and we're going to do an entire foot here over through here to see that come through. So the first thing, we get that longitudinal arch. Isn't it really pushed nicely through there? And we're going to get, again, that true feeling of that in this view. Maybe the triangled foot we've drawn, we've learned to. We'll just get a feeling of it here, so we can just get ourselves set up a little. Excuse me, a little. We can draw that. We draw these pretty simply. Simple triangle, right? Simple triangular structure. And then we'll come up and now we can go a little bit more complex with our drawing. So the first thing we notice is, as we come through, is we'll start maybe getting into the area now of the calcaneus bone in through here, and just kind of go for it. We'll just kind of go for this bone, back curving through here and over, and you really get a sense of how this bone really takes on the Achilles heel in the tendon and through there, and it has a plantar tendon coming underneath, so it's really well set up for a lot of interplay with the foot in terms of anatomy. So we have that coming through. We'll come on up. So we've got the calcaneus bone in through here, and it ends roughly in through here, okay, down in through. Now we've got the talus up here. Instead of drawing all this together, now the talus, as you know, we talked about just a second, is kind of curved. It's kind of like a cylinder. You can see that, and it helps in that flexing and moving of that bone. So it's a little bit more of a barrel, and it's just rounded, really. We get that lateral sound of it. Just kind of think of it's rounded, and it kind of goes back into here. That's enough. You don't need more than that. Now, we can group all of the navicular and the the cuneiform bones, together into one little grouping. Now, notice this arching that comes over, so it gradually arches this way. Okay, we see that into about right here. I'm going to mark that with, a little stronger mark right in through here. And that's going to put us about halfway through the foot total. Now, the other halfway mark, as we come down to the tuberosity here of the fifth metatarsal, that's going to put us about halfway from the calcaneus ending to about the end of our pinky toe, with flesh on it even. So it might be a little bit less with the bone, but we'll make it work anyway. So calcaneus in through here. Group these all together. Remember, this is the cuboid up and through here. This is the cuneiform bones. Now we can just say, hey, let's group them all together. So they kind of make one little headstock. See how this looks like a head of a gun or like a boat, again, if you will. So we'll come down here and then we'll start to say, let's separate these tarsals out. So remember, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. We probably won't see the fifth heading over here. Proportion-wise, let's look at this a little bit. So we have this ending here. They get really long in the metatarsals, and then they get really short very quickly. As a matter of fact, the longest finger is longer than generally from the metatarsal over to your index finger here is longer than that entire grouping and then some. So we get that metatarsal range, and then we get into the phalanges, the proximal for the big toe and the distal, okay? And so proximal, medial, distal, proximal, medial, distal. See how that kind of has an inward inverting arcs, proximal, medial, distal, and then proximal, medial, distal there for our foot. So let's put on these toes, but before that, let's put on the tibia and fibia. So coming over with that fibula over here, the lateral malleolus here, coming down a little bit lower, then over, that head bulbs in, and out of the picture plane there. and over. So we see that, we see this coming over. Now there's cartilage, articular cartilage, there's fat pads, and there's quite frankly a lot of ligaments. All of these bones, all of them now are very much controlled and stitched together by several ligaments. So we see that coming together. A little further in there, we have that. So now the fifth metatarsal, that little extra tibbed area, really taking on a role structurally that's really going to show up. So we have the fifth metatarsal, kind of a boxier form, and coming over, okay, and then slinks down. These remind me, we're going to draw one or two individually, and they really remind you of the femur articulation against the tibia and fibia in the front and the back. They remind me just a smaller version of those bones. So metatarsal here and over, and then we have that bulkier quality of the condyle. So we have condyle to condyle, which makes this boxier and bolder with what we call the knuckles of the foot. So condyle to condyle here, strong curve. See that strong curve there that I'm drawing over? Proximal, medial, and then kind of a curving triangular, almost like a shark's tooth, really in through. Then at that point, you just kind of draw shapes. Now, what's interesting about these areas as they come together is that this entire area is sheathed over by ligaments. So they're wrapped around there. They're like little balls. There's cartilage in between, and there's these little cartilage areas of ball-like form that hold those bones together. It's really, really interesting to see that. So we'll have now the next over here, fourth, coming through the head, then the curved body. It curves upward a little bit. We'll follow that ridge along to the back, heading through here, and then down through, curved up to the proximal, medial, and then the distal ending tip of that bone right in through there. Then we have the next one through here, a little bit more space for me. The head of the metatarsal region coming down, really blocky head. Then we have the nice curve coming in down in through, much longer of the arc in through there. Okay, and then we have the proximal, condyle to condyle, proximal, okay, medial, kind of a downward turn here, and then the distal curving back over and through there. Okay, and then the fourth, or the second, excuse me, and through here. Nice big strong head in through there, coming down really blocky in this one, coming over. They all have a similar kind of feel to the metatarsal, long through here, okay. Proximal, the second, the longest generally, medial, and then of course the distal kind of triangle. And I'm going to go ahead and put the fifth on. We'll have just a little bit showing in through here. Largest of the bones in through the great toe, metatarsal in through here, and then we have the proximal. There's no medial, so quite thick, more tubed, and then the distal, which can be very, very triangulated, and like a tube pointing down in through here and on around. There we go. All right, so we have a beginning feeling for the bone of the foot. Now, again, these condyles, all of them, are attached by bony, well, they're bony because they have two forms coming together, but ligaments cover them. They're like little balls. Okay, so they make like these little extra balls. That's why these are pretty pronounced when you see them on the human figure, quite frankly. So they're large and kind of balled up that way. Let's take on a couple of bones now, and let's draw a little bit. We'll do that in 3/4 here, and we'll blow this up a little bit and draw this idea of bones kind of coming at us. So what I'll try to conceive and show is kind of this area. And let me go a little closer. Let's see what that looks like too. That'll be good. I'll pull this over a little bit so we can draw this idea a little bit sounder and further. So as we're coming across here, we're going to draw these cuneiform bones here and then downward like so. So kind of a block here, and they're kind of coming over, so we see that. Now the rest of this is coming down and over the calcaneus bone underneath here. I'm more interested in writing through here this big toe, because that gives us kind of an idea of what all these bones do. So as we kind of come down, we arch over and then around like this. Generally with the bones, we're going to have this head of each bone, the metatarsals, proximal, medial, distal. Okay, so there's a longer kind of head to it, then it curves downward like so. We've seen this before in the femur and other bones. So they kind of curve to a head. They come in, they give us that, then they give us this idea here. Okay, so then we come in, and we're going to curve around. Okay, so they narrow here. So we're going to have muscle in between, tendon and fat pads on top, fat pads certainly on the bottom. Then we're going to come over, and then we're going to get this big, bulky, big bulky head now of the toe in through here. So condyle of the metatarsal coming over. Okay, coming through here. I'm going to keep drawing it for a moment, like so. Okay, and then we're going to get the next one up against it of the proximal. And so these two together create quite a bit of bulking and ridging out. And then of course you get the ligaments on top that ball them together, bind them together, and you get a very strong big knuckle of an area. And so we get the shaft, which is curved inward and then outward again. And then we get the ending here, okay, like so, coming on down and over. Turn this like so. Falling out here, then we'll show the top of it. Top of it here, kind of triangulated through here. And then we get this bottom one as we come together. So you see how it's this rhythm we have of the big head, the greater head area comes over a little bit further. Then we get this narrowing of the body, okay? And it's very cylindrical, and they get a little bit actually angular, some of them. You just have to draw them as you see them. This comes down slight like that. And then you get into calcaneus bone. Then you get into this now distal bone here of the phalanges, and they get much more triangular and more like, I think of it like a shark's tooth, if you understand what I mean there. Just triangulated here, up and through and over. Look how far now this comes really down in through here. Then wants to come back up, and you get this kind of boxiness, like so, like that. And so now if we can take a darker pencil, we can redo this, or just kind of tighten this up a little bit around, like so. Get that coming across, like that. Really ridged up in through here. This kind of top ridge, okay. Just put a little dark underneath here. There we go. And this kind of comes in, overlaps, and this big great condyle head comes over here, balls in, wraps around. Then this wants to bulge out, and then come in, so it's a thinner neck for sure. A thinner neck. And then we'll come over. Okay, come through now. They'll meet together There'll be cartilage underneath that, in between that, and ligaments, just like the femur and the tibia fibia for sure. Let's get shape down. Put it together, like so. Head here now coming around. You gotta get this turn, really get this to turn, just to show you that coming through and over. And then this raised up head, I'm showing you here where cartilage would be in between. Okay, coming through here. Push that back a little bit. And then we get this last head in through here, so I can alter this shape a little bit here. Over. So get in the habit now of starting to draw these bones. And learn, as I'm doing here, to show you what you can do, what's possible with time, as they give you an idea of what you're up against when you draw the toes, when we put it all together. And this comes underneath a little bit. There we go. And this wants to turn over. These have a little striation this way. You can do that. And then turn them this way to show that. And then this bulks out here, kind of a head, like so. So you have that sense of now they're coming together pretty nicely. This bulky, again, bulky, tubular, cylindrical kind of an idea of them coming together. So let's get a little chalk in there, show them maybe further, put a little light on the top, maybe here a little bit, just show them come down the body, hitting through there, tweaking out so that nice roundness of that as they come through the toe. So all this would be connected and they connect in, and so the rhythm of the rest of it would be up and through here, gesture of all these toes together, down and through, and down and through there as if we were going to draw them further, which we won't, through there. Now the idea now, we have tendons that come on top here. In this case, the hallucis coming over all the way through, and so you're going to get this feeling of these tendons coming over, and they are attached by a retinaculum or a wrapping that we see in some of our feet, and I'll show you those when we get to muscles too as well, which will have this kind of an idea. This will start to show up further within the bones of the foot too as well. So let's talk now. I think that gives you a good idea of how those come together. If we did some also from profile really quickly, let's see here. We kind of done it up here. I'll do it really, one more thing I want to show you here. Let's make sure we're in camera, maybe about right in through here. So we have, it's just this idea of a ball, okay? Kind of an oblong balled form that we have. Then we have a curled head for a metatarsal, thinning out, curled up. We've seen that with the femur. Then another ball coming together, the head of it through here. Then another condyle together that fits, that sockets in mostly together. So we have that thinning out and then becoming bulky again. And the same kind of thing, fitting in, right? And then a last one where we fit into the distal part, and you get this kind of pointy idea. What's happening is you get on top this tendon idea sitting on top here, okay, coming over and coming over, but you also get a balling up of tendinous material here, okay, and then lastly you're going to get nerve and you're going to get fat pads, okay, that are underneath this material as well as muscle. So you're getting this whole idea now for a toe. And we get down to the nail, and we get down to the bulging in of a toe here, right? And the nail would sit on top, roughly like that. So that's in a general way what's going on with the feeling now of the toe and of the bone a little bit. Pretty important to note. All right, so also now as we draw toes and we have to deal, here we are in the camera, hello. We have to deal with foreshortening. Let me pull out just a little bit further. We have to deal with some foreshortening at times. We want to simplify this process to make this work for us. So we might see, here we are. We might see now this whole idea of a condyle. Okay, we get this, and then we're going to get a little bit of stepping down here, and then we're going to get this again. Okay, so we're going to get this idea wrapping around, bulgy, wrapping around here. Okay, and then we're going to get a narrowing, and then we're going to get this idea again of another condyle. Okay, wrapping around. If we can finish this out, this will feel like an oval. I'm over here. Okay, we'll feel like that. Then we're going to get the ridge of this condyle, like so here. Okay, opening up through, and then we're going to get coming out as like this, and then the end of this toe, like so here. Okay, it's kind of like a little box over here, like this, and then the top ridge of it, right in through there. So we're going to get a like curve oval, then coming at is and down and over to get the end of this feeling of a strong foreshortening, because a lot of times you'll see that's where students kind of freak out. They'll get that idea. This could be close to where the nail will be in our distal bone through here of the toe, the great toe. So that's what you're going to see, and then you'll get this tendon now coming over, coming down, up and over, okay, coming down and ending. So we'll get that area quite a bit too as well. So very strong overlapping and foreshortening, which will happen in our idea of what we're drawing, which is cylinders. Two simple cylinders or boxy forms. So this whole idea that you can turn, this right into, which is really what we're saying, aren't we? Which is this, which is a cylinder, if we wanted to go this direction. We've seen this before in drawing. All over the place. We've seen this idea, right? Or if you wanted to say it's a box, that sometimes can be helpful to conceive. We can see this idea. We can conceive it like that. We've seen this idea, box to box. So it's not really as complex as you might perceive it to be in the beginning. I think we can simplify this greatly, and it takes obviously some practice too as well. So let me show you behind again on the foot here, the ankle, and just make sure that we're squared away with a few things here. So the back of the ankle again is not center, it's well off center here. So if I can hold it and see it and draw it, what you're going to see in through here, we understand that we have the tire system coming down, the shaft there of the bone. Then we have the tibia and fibula break in through here. Now we're lower on the fibular side because of the action of the malleolus here, just the way we work our foot. Now this cascades over, right? So we're here. This has a bulgy head to it to get to that back and through there, then comes back over and down, and then we're much higher coming underneath the talus in through there. Now, once we get that, our true center was here, okay? That was the true center of these two bones together, which was right there. But in reality, the center we want to be using, the offset, is here, okay? So that's the offset, and the reason why is we get more material. There's an abductor muscle that attaches here and runs to here, across to round this out a little bit, okay? So we get a little bit of opening. It gives you that graceful opening of the foot, and quite frankly, you don't want a real strong line in through this area, and that's the reason why. So now if we come back and draw this further, so we get the talus coming out a little bit further here, okay, and at an angle, like so. We see that. Then we're going to get now the calcaneus bone. Now remember, this is curved, so it's curving in. Now how do you show that back here? Well, it's hard. It gets wider as it comes out. Here's my true center now, so I'm off center here, over here, so it's kind of bulbous and through. Comes down, gets wider, comes over, gets blockier, then it gets wider, and then it sits down, right, in through like that. We get a little bit of the bottom here, okay? Then we have this beautiful region where the end of your heel, where your Achilles is going to attach, your Achilles tendon is going to attach here and down below. In through there. So now what happens, you can see, hopefully, you can see that in a straight on point of view, you're going to get a little bit of widening now. You're going to see that fifth come down here. Look at that fifth metatarsal over through here. Really see how bulky it is. And of course we get down to bones here, down to the phalanges and a little bit lower, and then it's arced. But notice again how much space we have over here. If I can show a little bit of the end of the first metatarsal here, maybe coming down, and all that material comes down to the distal phalange there and over. All this now, excuse me, over here becomes empty space, if you will, where it's darker through here to show and to place material for our foot muscle in through there. But it's a gradual kind of sloping and more open than it is on the other side and through here. So it's important to see this angle here, really important to see that. The malleolus high on the inside, low on the outside. Now, lastly, the bottom of the foot, it's most instructive to see it, well, it's instructive to see it, isn't it? Well, it's most instructive to see it as a foot pad drawing problem. And when we talk a little bit about the muscles, you'll see that they fill in some here. There's the long plantar ligament that attaches here to the bottom head and sheaths over to this region. And then on top of that is the flexor digitorum brevis, and they're a branch of muscles that sheath across here. It gives you this tubed area in through here, but it's still curved a little bit, especially with the fat pad coming underneath. Just know that the arcs of the bones will not touch the ground. It's the fat pads that touch the ground. This area of the foot takes on a lot of stress and pressure, and there are lots of fat pads that hold on to that foot bone. Let's go out a little bit, pull out a little bit further now, and a little bit more time. Got a little bit more time left on here. So the whole idea to get back to this area is we take, let's see if I can hold the bone. I'm right-handed. Let's see if that's going to work. Well, we'll just draw the, well, I'll have to hold it out of camera. Sorry about that. So can't be Superman. So we'll get the whole idea of the bones, the distal bones to the toe, coming into the great toe, back to the metatarsal phalangeal bump into here, right back in through here, and it's real strong. So everything pulls back to the second toe. So if I demonstrated it up here, just really strongly, the second toe is about straight. The big toe wants to come on in, and if you get too far in, you have a little disease. I forget the exact name of it, but podiatrists will be able to tell you. So everything, then the third leans in a little bit, the fourth leans in a little bit more, and then the pinky toe idea will lean in a little bit further than that. So everything is leaning into about the second. Everything's leaning into the second, just a little bit. Sorry about that. Okay. Now, in between the toes, lots of interosseous muscle material. So in between here, ligament as well as muscle. So getting back to this idea quickly, we see this. So here's roughly the second, in through here, the third, fourth, fifth pinky, and then the first over through here. Then we'll get this real strong area where the fat pad will, what we call the ball of the foot, right? Roughly in through here, okay? And so you can feel underneath that. Let me draw the structure of it outward first. And so you can feel this coming down, feel this fat pad coming down like this, right? Then what happens, don't forget that the metatarsal, the fifth metatarsal, that tuberosity will pop out. We'll see that little bulge underneath here. And then we're going to come on down. This gets pretty round through here. Bulk over, round it out, and then we're going to come down to a head for the ankle here. So this whole area underneath here is just covered in a very thick padding. Thank goodness, right? Hallelujah. Get some of that padding on there so that we don't feel all the stress and strain of the day, or an athlete running. That would be devastating. Totally ouch-inducing, no doubt about it. So we have that. Then we get this movement in, like through in and over. So it's kind of a redo from the first structure, but I want to show you those bones coming through a little bit more. And so you get this angle here of the tarsal, metatarsal area right in through here coming up, right? So you get that in through here, and then what we get is see this angle movement through here, and then we get the distal, right? So proximal distal, we get that. Then we get all the tarsals coming together. Just group them all together from now on. You can learn their names, definitely learn their names, but we get them all grouped together, kind of a rhomboid-esque drawing. Then we get the calcaneus bone down in through here, underneath, okay? Keep it simple, triangular, like so. Then we can come and say, okay, another metatarsal of the second, in through here, proximal, medial, distal, and we do the same thing on over, and they'll come in, and you get the idea with that fifth really bulking out there. So you can see now how those fat pads are real strong. Thank goodness for them. And they tend to split up. We get a little creasing right in through there as well. Okay, so the fat pads do not run down through the middle of plantar ligament area and beyond down. So this area now, this line is not a strong line. This line is not a strong outline. I'll put a strong outline here, okay, and across these toes. Okay, we'll see that. See that underneath here. But this line is not. This is left soft and open so we can glide downward and open back up and get back up to the top of the foot. Very important in your drawing practice to understand that. All right, so I think we've got a good start understanding of now the bones of the foot. The idea is to practice them. Draw them quite a bit. Don't be scared of them. Take them as simple cylinders and tubes slowly and build up on them over time. They're just simple boxes or cylinders, and you'll be able to throw light on them, right? And to make them light up and do whatever it is you want to do with them. In terms of your drawing, put a little light there on them, and you'll see them really shine on through. But drawing bone, I mean, really spending some quality time drawing long, slow bone studies, and then conceptual studies like this to give you an idea of what's going on. So if I took a little bit off this ligament here, okay. Excuse me there, we can come down and say, okay, maybe there's a little light cascading across this ligament to show that coming across as well. And you'll see some ligaments on the model as you draw them. Nerves as well, but there's a ligament to every structure from metatarsal on, coming on down to the tip of the distal region, both on the top and also underneath too as well. We just don't see them underneath because they're buried with fat pads, so a little bit easier, mercifully, a little bit easier to draw as well. So, all right, I think we have what we need now with the bones of the foot. Okay, so the next step will be to go on and start to look at the bones, the muscles of the foot, and to put them together. So what I'll have with the next one is I'll have all the bones drawn in probably a very diagrammatic way, a front view, side, and 3/4, and we'll put those on, and not too many really there to worry too much about. It's mostly the bone structure that really starts to push us through. So look how I'm softening here. This is a gradual push over, and this is just soft transition. This can be a little harder edge to pop that in. And this crease can be a little harder. A little opposite line here, one against the other can help to get that over, and we get that nice soft. This can be a little harder edge to even. But that opening has got to be soft. Soft for the foot. Okay, that's the bones of the foot. I'll see you with the muscles. You guys take care. Bye-bye.